Raphael Dangerfield.
All right there. A lot of you have been telling me to watch Sean Atwood's channel, and I kind of avoided it because I recognised the name, and I always thought it was someone I went to school with. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to be recommended to. It's kind of a school name, isn't it? Sean Atwood, you know, old Shawnee Atwood. And by accident, I come across one of his videos, and actually, it turns out I know the name from one of those banged up abroad things. He was some English bloke, stockbroker, went out to America, ended up getting shafted, done 6 years, I think, for cocaine. Sorry, for ecstasy, dealing ecstasy. But I watched a few of his videos, good stuff, and then I managed to find one of him with a girl called Eleanor Conway. I used to know when I'd done stand-up, and it was kind of weird. See all these like networks forming. So I found him on Twitter, and he was following me. So I pinged him a message, and he gave me his email. So I'll be pestering him to get on his channel somehow at some point. I'm sure I already have. But watching some of his videos, he's a humble bloke, Sean. He's done very well for himself in various areas. He's obviously had his monumental failure. I mean, 6 years of your life is, you know, you don't get long on this planet, and to lose 6 years is, you don't get it back. But he asks the right questions because he knows, you know, he's not impressed by any of this stuff. He's not sort of taken aback by it. He knows it, and he asks good questions. And I see him a couple of times frequently asking people about their drug journey, how they sort of went from one to another, etc., etc. And I've told various sort of links in my chain. You know, I've alluded to them in various videos, but I thought I'd give you the whole progression. And this could be a long video. It's a long old progression. So it starts like everything in childhood, where I am around alcohol. Alcohol is prevalent. In my family, bad news, you get drunk. Good news, you get drunk. Nothing to do, you get drunk. You don't pretend, you pretend you're not getting drunk, though you're just drinking. Oh, they're drinking. We had wine cabinets. We had liqueurs sent over from Spain. I've got a Spanish auntie, and she'd send over like banana liqueur, caramel liqueur. It's called Cointreau Tres. Cointreau Tres, yeah, 43. And it's like caramel liqueur. My mum's still got a bottle of it around. Parfait Amour. It's this purple fucking... It's just sugar and alcohol. Perfect love. And all this was always discussed. My nan and granddad run boozers. You know, my dad met my mum in the boozer my mum worked in because she was the daughter of my nan and granddad. Both alcoholics. So my mum's parents were alcoholics. My mum's... yeah, I always worry she's going to watch this and just give me a call. She drinks every day, fair amount too, and always has. Her sisters are both alcoholics. My mum's probably the best of them, not the best alcoholic, but like the least alcohol soaked out of the three of them. But like when my auntie comes to stay at my mum's house, she says she has to sleep downstairs because the stairs are too steep. No, it's because the booze is downstairs. It's a mess. But so booze is prevalent. Pubs, bars. When we go and visit friends, it's always in boozers, and they know the bosses, and there's a whole sort of history of the family and friends and boozers and drink and blah, 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 blah. Every time we went over my nan's, the booze had come out of spirits. You know, me and my brother would play being waiters, you know, making gin and tonics for my nan and all that. And, of course, having a fair amount. You know, we were allowed to drink little bits. Or, you know, in those days, you'd give kids cigarettes and beer and take photos of them. Oh, look at that. Different world. But strangely very anti-drug. I mean, you've got to look at this in context. As the 70s came to an end, the 80s was characterised by a fear of heroin. You know, I can remember so much media about heroin. It was the devil's dandruff. This stuff was so bad, so evil, so incredibly attractive. You know, I was so anti-smoking. I'd cry when I saw my dad smoking. You know, I hated it. You know, I used to. You know, you'd see things on telly about lung cancer, and you think you're going to lose your parents next week. So it's a lot of pain there. But there'd be these adverts on telly. A lot of people my age, Brits, will know these adverts, and it would be like, you know, they were like pop videos. It'd be like this sort of dirty, dingy alleyway in some sort of estate somewhere, the old pavements in the sky. If you don't know what that is, there was a kind of sort of semi-brutalist architecture of high-rises, you know, fucking cram as many out-of-work people into these places as possible. But rather than having to go down to the ground to go between blocks, you'd just be able to walk across these sort of pavements in the sky. Ooh, wonderful. Hell on earth. And so it'd be in one of those low lit, you know, there'd be some music, not the Velvet Underground, but it might as well have been like, you know, and it'd be some bloke like all looking all heroin chic, all sort of drained, and he'd be like, yeah, no, I ain't got a problem. No, I'll just take it or leave it. And then the camera would zoom in a bit, and they'd have a couple of scabs and shit on him, and it'd be like, nah, I just got a bit of a cold. And then the next one, he'd be going, help us out, will you, John? And then the really boring, dull, Christian-looking sort of kids with their little ties on, were going, oh no, we don't want to talk to you anymore. And then it would focus in, and it would go, heroin screws you up. And I'd be just looking at that going, what the fuck is this stuff? In the novel I'm writing, it opens up. When the novel I've written, I'm just fucking editing it. The opening chapter, the opening scene, dare I say, is the protagonist, who you might recognise, you know, watching one of these. It was a movie about these people that found loads of heroin, and you know, at like 9 years old, I'm completely obsessed with this substance. I've got no idea what it is. It just seems to acquire glamour. Wherever it goes, it acquires drama. It's just excessive in itself. But, you know, I wasn't going out trying to get any at 9 years old, that's for sure. It was kind of fleeting, you know, when the adverts came on or whatever. First time I actually ever saw anyone take any illegal drugs, apart from sniffing Tipp-Ex at school. I had a couple of bangs of it, but it weren't for me. I was a kid. The kids who really got into the old Tipp-Ex thinners at school had like sovereign rings and beards when they were 13. That wasn't me. You know, I had to wait a fair amount of time to get any fucking bodily hair, I can assure you. Which is why I am so proud of it now. This came out about 35. But I went to see a mate of mine. He'd been a friend of mine since we were very young, like 2 or 3, literally, you know, down at play school and all that. Our mothers knew each other, local kids. And he moved away to this kind of new build in this luscious kind of forestry area in Walderslade in Chatham. And it was those cooperatives, like a couple of plumbers would get together with some plasterers and some bricklayers, some electricians, you know, all just people who could build houses, and they'd all chip in and buy a bit of land, and they'd build a road, and they'd build their houses. And what you got for your money, because you were all building it for each other, we could get into a whole alienation from labour argument here, but was incredible. You know, they left a very poor sort of 2 up, 2 down in Dartford, and had this fully detached house with about half an acre of land out the back on this private road. You know, they weren't rich people, but they fucking were now, as far as I could work out. And of course, there was loads of kids there. And so when I went to visit him, there'd be all these groups of kids hanging out, and it was really lovely, because now I was about 12 or 13, and things were kind of changing in Dartford. You know, the lush childhood I described to you was more of a 70s thing. As the 80s kicked in, you could see things started changing. You know, young couples with a couple of kids were moving out of our street, and commuters, singles, young singles, no families, moving in. And so to go up there was just heaven. I remember crying my eyes out every time I had to leave. I didn't want to go back to my shitty Dartford. I wanted to live there, and in this abundance of space and potential and hope. They were, and you know, it's still a nice area. They pulled it off. But one of his mates, he was a bit of trouble. He was always, I'd heard that he was always getting done for little petty criminal things, a bit of shoplifting, putting a window through and all that sort of thing. But my mate, Darren, his name was, he said, I can't remember this other bloke's name, but he said, we're going to go and meet him. He went, he's got some, I can't remember what he called it, hashish probably. And we got there, and this kid got it out, and like we were all looking at it. About that big, little bit of solid hash, bit of soap bar. You know, about, in today's money, about 20p's worth. And I just remember just being, it was fucking exciting. You know, it was really exciting. And the geezer that was showing it off could tell that me and Darren were just like gobsmacked. And he was going, yeah, I'll get it off a mate of mine. Yeah, he goes, you know, he goes to parties and stuff. You know, typical fucking 13, 14-year-old stuff that would impress you. Yeah, he's got a car, yeah. And I was never going to smoke anything at that age. I was so anti-smoking. And I watched this bloke put it in a Rizzler. My dad smoked roll-up, so I knew what a roll-up was. And he's crumbled a bit of this in there, and I've watched him burn it off, and I'm immediately attracted to the ritual. You know, it's not, there's more going on. He's burning it off, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I've never seen anyone do this. I don't understand it. And I was a clever kid. I like to know things. And this is pre-internet. And how are you meant to find out about that? Who am I? Who can I go to and say, what? Why'd you burn off hashish before you put it in? What's that about? And there was something fascinating about this thing. And he was saying to us, he was saying it's a plant. It's a plant. It comes from a plant. And he's put it in this roll up. He's only about 14 himself. And me and Darren have just watched him smoke it, and we're like, and of course we don't want to be we don't want to be like blown away, because we're trying to be cool. We're like, no, I don't want any. But no, and we're both secretly sort of like, whoo, this is on top. This is amazing. And he smoked this joint, and then he's just laid down. Put his hands behind his head. We're in the woods. Put his hands behind his head, crossed his feet, just laid down. Little grin on his face. And I can remember looking through the grass, the twigs, you know, the forest floor, picking up bits of wood and broken twig, and sort of saying to Darren, is that it? Is this it? You know, is that some? Because I'm thinking it's a plant. Well, you know, there's plenty of plants here. Is that some? And he's like, no. And that was it for quite some time. The first time I actually had any, we went through a period of doing legal highs. We all became hippies. It was like a sort of mid to late 80s resurgence of the summer of love. And I'm starting to do my research now. You know, I'm reading The Doors of Perception. I'm reading Carlos Castaneda's Journey to Ixtlan, The Ring of Power. Awful books. Doors of Perception, fantastic, but Carlos Castaneda, just hippie bullshit. And we're going to these conventions, and we're coming back with cola balls and rocker can, and you know, this shit, you have to ingest so much of it just to get a headache. It's not happening. And then one day, I can't remember who got it, someone's got a lump of hashish, 1/16 of an ounce. And I'm not smoking tobacco, so I've got, someone's given me a little metal pipe. Fucking brilliant. just yes. Oh, my, what do they call it? I can't remember the name of it. There's something cannabinoid system. Oh, it's just lit up like a Christmas tree. Endocannabinoid. My endocannabinoid system. I mean, our bodies are absolutely loaded with cannabis receptors. Not just the brain. You've got them in your spine. I think your liver, all over the place. And they've all just drunk heavy from the cup of hashish. And of course, those early smokes are just characterized by intense giggles, just crying and not, you think you're going to die because you can't stop laughing. And of course, then the mad hungers and all that. And then every weekend, someone would manage to get hold of a bit of this. And I slowly started making the contacts, and I'd be able to get a bit of it. And I'd have a bit, and it was... But this was all low level, because my dad was still alive. Drugs were an absolute no-no in our drunk household. So then I carry on doing my reading. I'm reading all that sort of stuff. I'm doing the Naked Lunch. I'm doing Junkie. I'm doing Queer. What else? I can't remember. But, whatever books I can get hold of on the subject. In those days, pre-Amazon, pre-internet, there'd be second-hand bookstores, and you could go in there and find these weird little paperbacks, The Psychology of Hallucinogenics. And, these were written by medical students. You couldn't make head nor tail out of them, but I'd just keep going, looking for keywords to sort of... I've been researching the brain function and hallucinogenic determinants of the second gamma. Just above. It was above me then. It's above me now. And I'm thinking I've got to get my hands on some hallucinogenics. I'm listening to the Doors. I'm reading those biographies. I'm listening to Hendrix. My life is becoming psychedelic without the drug. It's psychedelically kind of, what could you say? I'm creating a space where ingesting an hallucinogen will become essential. And one day, me and two friends, I think we're about 15, 16, we'd been drinking every weekend since we were about 13, going out, just getting absolutely shit-faced, finding some girls, they would get shit-faced, few kisses, touch of the willy, and then, do all the same next weekend. And one weekend, I remember we'd all kind of a bit bored of that, and I think it was me said, should we get some drugs? And we meant more than hashish. And my other two mates were like, yeah, all right. And there was a boozer in Dartford called the Coach and Horses, and they let in people who are well too young to drink in there, and everyone knew you could buy drugs there. So we put our money together. We've got about £12. A big night. And of course, when we've got outside the Coach and Horses, my two mates have just shoved the money at me. And I'm like, all right. So I go in there, and I'm well pre-pubescent, even at 14. I'm not pulling it off. There's geezers in there my age who I go to school with. They're at the bar with like a lager. Hello, John. I ain't seen you for a couple. And I'm like, hello. Do you want to play Dungeons and Dragons? And I go up to this geezer, Brendan, dead now. Ended up on the tackle, heroin, dead. Don't know if that killed him. I think he'd done himself anyway. And I've gone up to him and went, all right, Brendan, got any drugs? Got any drugs? Hey, drugs. And he went, I got some troops. He went, £5 a bag, 2 hits in 1 bag. And I've gone, right. Wait there. Gone out the boozer, run across the road, and because I wanted to be cool as well, I've gone, he's got some troops. 2 hits in a bag, £5 a bag. And then we've all looked at each other, 2 bags, all right. Gone back in there, he's shoved them in my hand, took the money off me, I've shoved them in my pocket, and we've walked up to my mate's house, the other side of Dartford, just, we got some troops. Yeah. Got to his house, of course, locked the doors, pulled the curtains, opened up a couple of money bags full of sludgy mushrooms, First thing I'm thinking is we've been done. We've been done. And then my mates said they're magic mushrooms, aren't they? And I was like, yep, that's what they are. Surely the geezer in the Brendan in the boozer said shrooms. Not troops, shrooms. So he said, fuck it, let's go. So we've all eaten one. One of these little psilocybins. Giving it 5 minutes. Nothing. Let's have another one. 5 minutes, nothing. No internet. How many psilocybin mushrooms should I take on my first 15 years old trip? None of that. Just kept going. Fuck it. Divide the lot into 3. Bung, 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 bung. We've done about 80 each. Hour later, nothing. When you don't know what you're looking for, the come up can be sort of somewhat underwhelming. So he said, fuck it, man, this is bollocks. Let's go back into Dartford, get some beers and just, you know, hang about like we usually do. So gone back down into Dartford. It's now about 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. It's grotty, Dartford, on a Saturday night. Hostile. And as we're walking through the middle of town, my stomach's going a bit funny. And then my vision starts going a bit funny. And I'm gulping a bit. And then it just goes... Fuck me, man. Everything just is sort of pulsating. You know if you've been there. I turn around to my mate Michael because I'm about to say to him, what the fuck is happening? As I turn, he is crying with laughter. Had tears running down his face. And then I look at my other mate, Richard, and he's just sort of like, you know, pulling hairs out his mouth. The old, we're fucked. Predictably, 80 mushrooms is a lot. It's a lot. Fresh, they weren't dried, they were still fresh. And that night was one of the key moments in my development. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. And now I can look back on it and see some quite dark, quite telling sort of... might be peaking. Might have been peaking all this time, sorry. Some quite dark things, like when the three of us broke up and I went home when I was sort of peaking. And I kind of preferred it. I was at home, in my bed, just enjoying being on my own, proper isolating, full peaking 80 mushroom trip. Because when I was around those two, it was all a bit too, you know, dealing with others, and that means dealing with self, and just to be on my own and indulge in that sort of self-obsession, really. But I knew the next morning when I woke up, and, you know, at 15, you can just shrug it off. And I just thought, well, I don't feel anything anywhere near as bad as when I've woken up after a load of alcohol. And my life has changed forever. The next 3 years, I was doing acid or mushrooms or both every weekend, if not more than that. I just hit that stuff hard, loved it. Just, you know, I'm kind of envious now of that the bottle I had at the time, the ability to just throw a couple of trips back and then just go into town, whether it was Maidstone or Chatham, wherever I was studying by now, Rochester. Just go into town on my own, full of acid, go to boozer, drink beer, and just see where the night took me, and what ridiculous, you know, it doesn't go well, but it doesn't necessarily go bad, but you find yourself in some fucking weird situations. And a lot of coming down, a lot of darkness, a lot of time alone, just going out of your mind, wondering who you are. After years of that, and then going to art college and just carrying on, loads of alcohol, loads of weed, loads of acid, loads of mushrooms, and I mean weekly, sometimes twice weekly, for years. Once I'd left my degree, I was so burnt out from the acid, I knocked it on the head, but I still wasn't satisfied with drinking and smoking ash. I was still doing both quite a lot, but They weren't giving me that distraction. They weren't allowing me to be other than myself. And that's when I got into amphetamines. Amphetamine sulfate, speed, made in bathrooms, chemicals, vile stuff. I can taste it and smell it now. And me and my girlfriend would do it every time I see her, and the sex, Jesus Christ, the sex on that stuff. If you can get it up, you'll be at it for days. No sleep, no, just porn and sex and madness and more speed, and then smoke more ash. Oof. And the funny thing is, when I ended up in rehabs and things years later, in NA and places like that, I never referred to myself as being a speed freak. You know, I always had that weird gutter pride. Oh no, I'm a junkie, I'm a heroin addict. But in truth, I'd done speed, you know, 2 or 3 times a week for about sort of 4, 5, 6 years, all the way through my master's degree. Completely screwed that up. I mean, there was a lunatic woman involved as well, but the two don't go together, and I can't completely blame her. And then I come back from Leeds and I'm just burnt out, too much speed. And I got a job writing a film, and I moved into a squat in Bethnal Green, and then it was all about Soho. You know, I could walk into Soho from Bethnal Green and cocaine, fair amount of speed, incredible amounts of alcohol. If you're taking speed and cocaine, man, can you drink? You know, the Members Club, Soho House, the Groucho Club, the Met Bar up on Park Lane, the Metropolitan Hotel, the Colony Club, of course, Jerry's, and just these places are a blizzard of cocaine. And of course there's money to be made there selling it as well, so I got involved in that. You know, I'd get home to my squat sometimes with about $3 in used tenors in my pocket and be like, oh, that went all right. And I still knew there was places to go. And then one day a mate of mine told me how to make crack. It was the ammonia wash, which is something, it's not the nicest one. Get on the bike, well, don't do either, but the bicarb wash is clean as you like. The ammonia wash, that you're using ammonia and you're going to fucking smoke the stuff, but you know, it's crack, so you're not really looking out for your health. And he showed me how to wash it up, so now when I got coke, I didn't want to snort it, I wanted to smoke it, and so I'd wash it up. But I didn't know about pipes. I didn't come from a crack environment. I come from a cocaine environment. But I knew about silver foil. I'd seen that and another silver foil tube. And so we'd put these rocks of crack on silver foil, and all my mates and that would sit around in a circle just chasing it. And then after a few sort of boots, you'd pass it on. But as soon as you pass that foil on, because it didn't give you a hit, you were just thinking, fuck man, I need that fucking foil back in my mouth now. And you're looking right, 1, 2, 3, oh fuck me, this could take 2 minutes. This could take 2 minutes to get back to me. What am I going to do? Sort of grinding your teeth. And you got someone here just talking shit in this ear, and what? Hang on, oh thanks. And I remember I was at my mum's house, she was away, and one of the real hard cases came round my house, and I'd known him since school, and we had a no violence pact, you know. Don't get involved with all that with me, mate. Nice bloke, but could cause problems. Would whack a golf club round your head if you owed him 30 quid. And I said to him, I've got some rocks here. He went, go on then. And I got them out, and I got out some foil. He was like, what you doing? I said, well, boot them. He was like, I ain't wasting my time with that. I went, all right then. I thought I'd call his bluff. I thought, as if he's not going to. And so he carried on booting them, and he just wasn't. And I felt a bit sorry for him. So I said, go on then, do what you have to do. So he got out a bottle, got a biro, got some chewing gum. A couple of minutes, he'd crafted a pipe out of one of these. Silver foil on here. You take this thing off. Silver foil on top, put this thing back on to hold it in place, put some holes in it, burn a hole here, put the biro in there, take the pen out, so it's just a tube, and you make a little blowhole here. It's making me feel really weird just saying that. The amount of times I've done that and my life has just been going down the Swanee. I mean, just know to crack cocaine. It is hell. And of course, he's put this stone on this pipe, and he's gone put a bit of cigarette ash on it first, so it don't all just pull through the metal, so it soaks into it. And I could just see the change in him, just fucking mind blowing. And up until this point, I've been saying to people, no, all this bullshit you hear about crack, I've been doing it on and off for a couple of years now. It's nothing. And as soon as I see him do that, I went, give us that here a minute. Hang on a minute. And I've put like a 5 stone on it. Oh, I mean, it's making me sweat. I'm sweating now talking about this. I can taste it. And it fucking works. I mean, this is free-base cocaine. This is... It's like a sledgehammer to your reality, and it's just laid me down, and the music was sort of echoing, and my whole body was just Christ. And by the time I'd sat up, a couple of minutes later, it don't last long, by the time I sat up, I remember saying, yeah, I can see why this stuff's a problem. Give us another one. And so began my hideous descent into crack cocaine. That didn't hang around too much because we didn't really have a lot of money most of the time. You know, when you're selling drugs, money comes and goes. Sometimes you can't get any. You're spunking a lot of money yourself. If you're smoking rocks, you're going to do 500 quid in a couple of hours. So I didn't really have the finances to, at that point, make it be necessarily as destructive as it certainly can be and would be later. But I was in the French house, lovely little boozer on Dean Street, Soho. Knew everyone in there because I was selling most of them cocaine a lot of the time. We'd get free drinks from the bar staff, beautiful Bloody Marys, the best I've ever had, about 13 ingredients. And I heard the barmaid, Leslie, still owns the booze, I think. And she said to someone else who was sitting the other side of the bar, she went, I don't know why they don't just go round to that park on Wardour Street and arrest them all. Everyone knows you can get heroin there. And mine just went, ding. Really? Did you say heroin? Put my coat on. I mean, I was half pissed anyway. Put my coat on, walked round there, saw a row of black geezers doing very little by the park. And I walked over and I just went, have you got a £20 amount of the heroin? Something ridiculously not down with the lingo. Hi, I'm looking for some of the H. Geezers took the money off me and just spat it. Spat it on the floor. It's raining. I'm now on my hands and knees, pissed out of my head, scrabbling around for what was basically about that big little bit of plastic that had been sealed with a lighter. Jumped in a taxi. Usually I'd walk home. Fuck that, man. I got something in my pocket that's burning the biggest hole ever. Got back to the squat. Woke my mate Stuart up. He doesn't talk to me anymore. Oh, I'm a nationalist. And I said to him, got some heroin? And he was like, all right, let's do it. So we got out some foil, and we, you know, what we'd already known from chasing crack. Made a tube, got a lighter, 2 boots each. Boot is rhyming slang, bootlace, chase. You chase the dragon, chasing. So 2 lines each, so this little blob, the heroin's sort of like a, sometimes powder, sometimes a lump, but as soon as you put a flame on it, it sort of melts into a little brown beetle, they call it. And as you tilt the foil, when you put the flame there, it sort of rolls down. The trick is not to burn it. That's called roasting it. Some fucker will always do it, though. Oh, that was nice. And everyone's like, you can't. That's it, all gone. But the trick is to heat it up and chase the vapour. Two of those each we had. I'd already been drinking. I just went... just passed out. I come round about 30 minutes later and I can see Stuart with his head out the window just puking. He's come back in. So one more. He's got his eyes a pontoon. One twists while the other sticks. I'm just like, alright, and I'm helping him do it. Both of us pass out. We wake up about an hour, God knows, hour, 2 hours, 2 minutes. We woke up later, cuddling each other. And he goes, is that the sun? And it's the light in the middle of his room. And I went, I don't know. And I just went upstairs to my room in the squat. And I had a few more lines, put some music on. And it just laid me back, man. Oh. I'm really not trying to sell this to you. Feels like I'm going home. Just a little bit more. I knew then and there I was in trouble. More so than the acid. More so than the hash. More so than the speed. More so than the mushrooms. More so than the coke. More so than the booze. More so than the fucking crack. Circuits had been reconnected that had been disassociated through childhood. Humanity had returned to a place where self-love was barren. Pain had been killed. And opiates are weird like that. I mean, they use them as painkillers. But what a substance. It's going to kill physical pain. It's going to kill emotional pain too. And this is what I always say to youngsters. When I done stand-up, because a lot of my material, much like a lot of my stories, are drug-based. People would say to me, what's the best drugs to go on stage with? And, you know, the youngsters, and I get it, they think it's all exciting and that. And I'll be like, it's best to be sober on stage because you could do your job better. Any narcotics of any sort are going to cloud your brain, and unless your act is about being drunk, tripping or smashed on skag, it's gonna be to the detriment of the performance, which they didn't want to hear, of course. And they'd be like, oh, thanks. Go away, old man. But I knew then and there, and sorry, that was my point. When youngsters say to me, and I get it with frightening frequency, I tried heroin the other day. Or me and my mates done some heroin. Or a lot of them are like, you know, I've been doing a little bit of smack here and there. And I feel for those kids. Because if you do heroin and like it, the depth of your problems is shocking. Because all those other drugs I've mentioned, alcohol, hashish, acid, mushroom, speed, crack even, have a drug effect. There's a describable feeling they give you. There's a describable series of sensations, both physical and mental, that they give to you, even crack. But heroin only takes away your ability to connect with yourself and the world. And if that feels good to you, that's because you're already fucked. You're already struggling to connect with yourself and the world. You know, a lot of people do it. I've had mates who've done it and never done it again. I've had mates who've done it and then 5 months later they've had a little bit and then just thrown the rest of the bag at me, going, nah, that's enough, man. It's all right. It's nice, but, you know, it's all. Because I haven't got deep-seated psychological problems. They don't need that fear, that self-obsession, that self-loathing. They don't need that taken away because they haven't got it. So the prize of heroin is less for them. Not so appealing, not so necessary. And the kids that like it, they got problems. The problem started long before the smack. The smack is just a signal to me. Yeah, you like that? Yeah, you're fucked. And while I don't try and give out advice, but on this one I'm fucking certain, if you are relatively young, or fuck it, if you're any age, and an opiate is giving you some kind of pleasure, get some help. Because the opiates are going to make everything a fuck lot worse in the long run. 100%. You know, and that, I then went on to use heroin and crack daily for years. I had, many of you know, if you're new to my channel, go and watch the Crack Diaries if you want to work out where the crack went. You know, you'll find, if you go back to my older videos, a lot of the stories, you'll find out where the heroin went. Cold turkeys in Thai brothels, fucking all sorts of absolute madness. I don't want to go into that now because I just wanted to show you the progression. But from that point on, heroin and crack dominated my life. Nearly killed me several times. Nearly had me locked up for the majority of my life. Several times, and I never escaped those things because I was a good criminal. You know, I ended up selling crack. I ended up selling fucking ounces a day. I ended up smoking ounces a day as well. But it was just luck, and luck runs out. So that's my progression. I forgot to mention the prescription meds throughout that, your Xanax and your Valium, but you know, they're just like dressing. It's just, go on, they're not drugs. We nicked them from your mother's medicine cabinet. I'll be interested to know your thoughts on this stuff, your experiences too, and I mean that. I do read all the comments, and I do read all the comments on my BitChute as well, but it's got to the point where answering them all is I'm not going to make as many videos if I'm spending 3 hours answering comments, but I will. I'm very interested in this. I'd like to think, I know a lot of my viewers. I know I've got together a group of depressive, suicidals, drug addicts, recovering addicts, lunatics. We've all met up here, and I'm good with that if you are. But let me know your experiences in the comments, and take care.